It is a chilly Monday morning at around 11 a.m. Professor Michael Ndurumo is on his way for his second class of the day at the University of Nairobi.
Good morning.
Inside class 207, a fourth-year class taking community psychology is eagerly waiting for him. Professor Ndurumo is deaf. He has to have an interpreter in all his classes. On this particular day, Jacqueline Jue will help interpret the lesson.
But later on, we find a way to...
I was brought up in Nyeri. That's where I started my education. I went to class 1 there. Then at the end of the year, I became deaf from meningitis. I had come all the way to Nairobi to see my father. So in December 1960, I became deaf.
And he had to deal with a number of challenges after he was done with his primary education.
The high school in Kenya did not know how to deal with a deaf student. So I stayed at home for almost 6 months, waiting to be admitted. But in May 1970, I was admitted at Nyeri Baptist High School. Then in 1971, I was transferred to St. Peter's, Mumias. I used to visit Mumias Primary School for the deaf. And I saw that there were some challenges there. Deaf children were not allowed to go to high school. The girls would go to do knitting, tailoring, and the boys were sent to Nyangoma vocational school for the boys. They learned masonry, carpentry, welding, and so on.
In 1972, after completing Form 2, Ndurumo moved to United States of America with the help of his former head teacher from Nyeri Baptist High School. It is in America that he completed his high school and college.
Every time I went to class, I had an interpreter with me. That helped me very much, and I noticed that I used to miss almost 70% of the information, because that was more like reading the books. But with an interpreter with me, I was able to follow the teacher.
After graduating with a doctorate, he went ahead and taught in 3 universities before he came back home and joined the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, where he worked for 21 years from 1982.
Then I took early retirement to go to Moi University, where I taught in the Department of Educational Psychology as a senior lecturer, and also later the chairman of the Department of Educational Psychology. Then in 2009, I moved here at the University of Nairobi. I like to teach very much, and I enjoy it. To see students succeed has been very inspiring to me. At May University, I taught up to PhD level, and I graduated almost 8 PhD students. Some of them are associate professor, some are senior lecturers, some are directors of departments.
It is while at KICD that Ndurumo played an important role that gave deaf students a chance.
I pushed for the development of sign language, and now it is well developed, and it is used in all schools for the deaf. And now we have deaf students going up to university level.
But life has not been rosy.
I remember I applied to come to the University of Nairobi in 1990s, and I was called for an interview. But when they found out that I was deaf, they told me they could not hire me. Then I came back in 2009, and this time they were more understanding. We are almost accident-free. But to start with, it is not very easy for people to understand us. They ask, how can a deaf person drive? So at start, the insurance company are hard on us. They charge us very high premium, but with time it has gone down.
The professor has authored 5 books.
The first book that I wrote was Exceptional Children in 1993. It helps lecturers to understand children with special needs. It is the first book in Kenya, published by Longman.
This is one of the books authored by Professor Michael Ndurumo, the Sudanese Sign Language. It is the first of its kind, and he had to spend 3 years at Kakuma refugee camp just to understand the language and be able to come up with this piece. His students at University of Nairobi say Ndurumo is exceptional.
With themselves.
It's a great experience being taught by someone who is deaf and he has determination.
This is the most interesting class I've ever been. Very interesting lecturer, very unique, very different.
When you compare with the other lecturers, he's not even lazy. He comes to class every single time and teaches well.
So the fourth layer is the macro system.
Jacqueline Jue has been his interpreter, attending his classes from 2012.
Same time, we do not understand some terms in psychology. We do not have signs. So most of the time we would create signs during class. As we go on with lectures, we would come up with new signs because, as you know, psychology is dynamic. And in sign language, it hasn't developed to the point that we have signs in psychology.
Ndurumo is married and is a father of 2. He says he introduced his sons to sign language before they turned 4 years.
And I wish that parents of the deaf can be able to learn sign language so that they can be able to communicate with their children. If not by the age of 4, then it's a waste of time. Language development, but age 4 is well developed. So what happens after that is you keep increases the vocabularies and expanding the language.
Ndurumo also runs a non-governmental organization known as Africa Institute of Deaf Studies and Research, where he trains sign language interpreters.
Sign language is not a difficult language. Yeah, it is fun, being more expressive, so it makes it interesting.
From 1998 to 1999, he served as a commissioner in the Koech Commission, an inquiry set up to look into the country's education system. And in 2001, Ndurumo was awarded the Head of State Commendation by retired President Daniel Arap Moi. Sharon Baranga, NTV.